the important part of conscious parenting is to recognize consciously first about yourself that only 5% of our behavior is evident and visible to us. And that if we start to become aware of that, then we can start to say, oh my goodness, when I wasn't paying attention, my behavior was nothing that I want my kids to emulate either. So this is really a part of before becoming a parent, is really to become conscious of what happened to you, because we are living evidence of this programming that occurred before. And I really appreciate this concept for this reason. I call it the honeymoon effect. Meaning this, the day before you met the special love in your life, I say, how long did it take you to get dressed? And you say, it took me about 5, 10 minutes. I was out of the house. I said, oh, well, how about lunch? How long did it take you to eat lunch or dinner? He said, well, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And I wiped my face with my sleeve and I was out of the McDonald's in a few minutes. No big deal. And then I say, okay, wait, you just meet this special person. This is, you think, the love of your life. And you're going to set up a date. How long is it going to take you to get dressed? And all of a sudden, geez, maybe an hour or two. And then I say, well, when you go to the restaurant, what kind of behavior? And you're going to say, oh man, I remember every rule of etiquette. I even know what every piece of silverware is for on this table setting right here. And oh, I blot my face with the napkin and I talk with no food in my mouth and I think about the words I'm saying. And we call this the honeymoon period. And why was it the honeymoon period? Because you were being very conscious of yourself when you got into this relationship, because you weren't allowing the automatic programs to take over. You were being self-reflective. And when you're self-reflective, then you're running your life according to your intentions and your desires and your aspirations. And then go back and think how beautiful that life was at that moment. You were the healthiest you ever were. You were the happiest. You had more energy than at any other time in your life. Life was beautiful. And then there's a point where the honeymoon ends. And how did the honeymoon end? And the answer is this. There's a point where all of a sudden you realize, well, okay, I've been on this vacation, on this honeymoon, enjoying my life a lot, but then real issues come back in. Got to make the rent payment. I got to figure out what's going on in the job, what's going on in the world. What happens then is that when the outside forces start to come in, your conscious mind starts to wander and think about, oh my goodness, the problems and issues, and your conscious mind starts to wander. Well, the moment your conscious mind starts wandering is the moment it stops being self-observant. And the moment it stops being self-observant, you automatically kick in to the subconscious programs, which you got from other people. So this wonderful relationship happens, and all of a sudden your partner comes up and asks you a question, and you're thinking about something, and you respond in a very abrupt or an unusual behavior because you haven't expressed this before, because you've been conscious up to now, and your partner looks at you like, what kind of behavior is that? Well, then here's the joke part. Well, that behavior was invisible because it was unconscious behavior. So you say, what are you talking about? Well, I've always been this way. Like you didn't see that you have just changed into this other personality for a moment. And that's when the relationships go like the partners look, oh, who did I marry? This is not the same person that was there during the honeymoon. Now there's another person in the room. And the thing is, yeah, that other person were the behaviors that were the automatic behaviors acquired from the parents and the community that were not playing when the honeymoon was in full effect, because the person was being very conscious. And so it really becomes relevant for us to understand that when we become conscious, think how beautiful your life was. Go back to that moment where it was the honeymoon of your life and say, why was my life so beautiful then? And then that disappeared. The answer is because that was the one time in your life you were really fully conscious. After that, you were operating from your subconscious. And then when all things go wrong, it's because most of that behavior is invisible to you. So when you start to recognize this, then also recognize the child records this as well. It may record the 5% that you're conscious, but it's also recording the 95% that was unconscious. That was actually not your behavior that you yourself got from your parents and from their parents, etc.